All right, here we go. Today we have legendary comedian and actor Cheech Marin of the legendary Cheech and Chong.
Hey.
Welcome to VladTV.
Ray, hi.
Man, listen, I'm a long time fan of your work.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. From your movies to your comedy albums to everything you've done all these years, man. Truly an honor to sit down and talk to you today.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I've been thinking about the records lately. You know, people don't even know what records are anymore. So it's really nostalgic for me.
Well, it's your first time here. I want to start in the very beginning.
Okay.
So you were born and raised in East LA.
I was born and raised in South Central LA.
Okay.
My parents were born in East LA. But for some reason, we ended up in South Central, and then half that and half in the San Fernando Valley, Granada Hills.
Okay. Well, I mean, later on when you had the song Born in East LA, I assume because you were born in East LA.
That's the creativity, I think, is where that came in.
Got it. Okay. So what was LA like in the 50s and 60s?
In the 50s, it was pretty cool. You know, they had different sections, and the valley was opening up. So everybody kind of started drifting towards that way. And so, but LA was pretty good. I mean, in South Central where I would live, it was like, I don't know, 94% black. And then we moved from there to Granada Hills, which was 150% white. And so it was, one day everybody was black and the next day everybody was white. How do this work?
Okay, and your nickname, Cheech, short for Chicharron?
Yeah, Chicharron. When I came from the hospital, home from the hospital, I was like, like little babies are all kind of curled up. And my Uncle Bono said, he looked in the crib and he said, "Ay, parece un chicharrón." I said, "Looks like a little chicharrón, curled up." And so that became my name in the family because my family has like 27 nicknames. And so that was my first one.
Okay, and your parents are Mexican.
My parents were born in Los Angeles as well. Mm-hmm. All my grandparents are Mexican, from Mexico, different parts.
Okay, so you grew up in this Mexican family, but you don't really speak fluent Spanish yourself, right?
I speak better Spanish now than I did before, yeah.
Okay, but back then you didn't really speak Spanish that much.
No, I heard Spanish very well, though.
Okay.
Because when I started, I came to the point where I said, I'm almost there. I can understand everything everybody's saying, but because I don't practice it every day. So I decided to use an effort to increase that. So I started going to Costa Rica a lot and staying down there for like a month or two at a time. So I was forced to speak Spanish every day if I wanted to eat or, anything else. And so I did that.
Okay, so you're growing up in LA.
Yeah.
After moving to Granada Hills, and you go to Catholic school at one point.
Yeah, good old Catholic school.
Okay, and you actually wanted to be a priest at one point.
Doesn't everybody?
No.
Oh, news to me. Everybody in my family, because we all went to Catholic school, and they jam that into you every chance they get. The teachers, and many members of my family are clergy.
Aha. Okay. I mean, during that time, during high school, were you a relatively good kid, or were you getting in trouble and so forth?
No, I was a really good kid. My dad was a policeman, LAPD, and so I liked living rather than dying. So I didn't do anything that would make me die. And no, it was, I don't know how to explain it. It was just good. The family was really good, but I learned Spanish more in my 40s than before. I understood perfectly what everybody was saying, but my pronunciation, my speech wasn't good, so I worked on that. And now I can say sí and no, so everything.
The no was pretty easy though, because that's the same in English. But
no, it wasn't.
Okay, and I mean, during high school, were you the class clown, the funny guy, or did that kind of come later?
Yeah, no, I was always the class clown because I came from a very funny family. And everybody in my family was very quick-witted, very smart, and very funny. And so if you wanted to get any time at the dinner table, you had to have like a tight 5 minutes, that you could pull out at any time.
Okay, so you graduate high school and you go to San Fernando Valley State College, which is now Cal State Northridge.
Uh-huh.
And how was that experience like?
Oh, it was great. It was, being Catholic and that then going just to Catholic school from the fourth grade on, you're just around kind of that family, and so when it got into the wider world, this was a very eye opening. I'd never met any Jewish people ever in my life, because we're all black, all white. And so when I got to college, there was a lot of Jewish kids there, and we became friends very, very quickly, especially the girls, because they're only human, and so we got along really well, and that was a great experience. It was a real eye opener to a wider world, that existed out there.
Okay, was it in college when you first started smoking weed?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. It never crossed my mind before. Actually, I think they had invented weed like about 2 weeks before I did this, kind of. I came home from a party, or I came home from my apartment, and there was a party going on. My other roommates were doing. It was really smoke filled and everybody. And I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And my friend Jerry handed me this joint, and I said, "What's this?" And so I said, "It's weed." I said, "What? It's marijuana." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what do I do?" Here, just take a big puff and hold it in. Okay, I could do that. Big puff, hold it in, passed it around. By the time the joint came around, I was high. And I said, and I looked at that joint and said, "And what else have they been lying about?"
Okay, I mean, at that point, did you know that weed was going to be a big part of your life, or?
No, it was just a fun thing that you didn't tell anybody about, because it was little illegal at that point. It was a lot illegal at that point. Nobody, I mean, you knew everybody that smoked weed in your group, which was like two other guys, So.
Okay, yeah, I mean, during that time, wasn't it like movies like Reefer Madness were coming out that said if you smoked weed, you would kill your whole family? And
No, my father said, "If you smoke weed, I'll kill you." Okay, I believed him, So.
Okay, so you graduate college as an English major, and you try to audition for Frank Zappa's band?
Well, yeah. I was. Well, I'll get into the story, but I was a senior in school, and I went out to see Frank Zappa, and he was playing out in Orange County for some reason, and he said, "Well, it's nice to be here in enemy territory," and so I was a big giant Zappa fan, man. That was it. And so I saw he was walking around the crowd, and everybody was talking to him, and I waited for my turn to for their space to be opened up, and I went up to him and started talking to him and blah blah blah, and he's talking about bands, and I said, "Your band?" So I used to be in a band called Rompin' Richie and the Rockin' Rubens, and he whips around and looks at me and says, "Really, Rockin' Rubens?" He says, "Are you? What do you do?" So I'm a singer. "You any good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the best." And so he says, "Well, I'm putting this band together. It's like a Satyrical's 50s band, and if you want to audition for it, you know where the log cabin is?" Yeah, everybody in Hollywood knew where the log cabin was. So come over tomorrow, and you can audition. Great. I got up early in the morning. I think it was still dark when I got there, and he lived in there. And I knocked on the door, and he brought me in, and we started talking. And so he played me, asked me if any tunes I wanted to play in that venue or in that realm. Named a couple songs. He played on. Ian Underwood came in and played the piano. Blah blah blah. And he looked at me and goes, "Oh, not bad. Just give me your address and a telephone number, and I'll get in touch with you." Cool. Frank Zappa's going to get in touch with me. But I left the country the next day to go to Canada. I didn't come back for 3 years. So, yeah,
Okay, now you left for Canada because you're being drafted to the Vietnam War?
I hadn't been drafted yet, but it was imminent. What happened was that I was a part of the draft resistance movement led by David Harris. It was a very big movement, and he was a very charismatic leader. And so General Hershey, who was the director of the draft at the time, said anybody who did any of the things we did, go to the draft center and protest, or go in the draft center and cause commotion, or turn in your draft card or burn your draft card. We'd done all those. And so he said that you'll be immediately drafted, reclassified, I'm still a student, going to school, reclassified, drafted, and sent to the front lines in Vietnam. That was his fix. No wonder we're a genius country. So, but at the same time, I had this, my very last semester, I discovered pottery. And it was my quest for being an artist was finally over. I knew what I was going to do because I always knew I was an artist of some kind. I just knew it, but I didn't have a medium, and so when I discovered pottery, it was like all my recessive Mexican genes came running out, and so I went up there to be a potter.
Okay, so you ditch America.
Yeah.
You go up to Canada.
Yeah.
And you get a job as a writer.
Yeah, for Tommy Chong's group. I eventually made my way to Vancouver. I started in Banff, Calgary, and then Banff, and then Vancouver. Met him, and I'd heard about this guy Tommy Chong while I was in Calgary because he was from there, and he was this famous guy that wrote a big hit song for Motown. Does Your Mama Know About Me? And it was a big hit tune. Everybody recorded it, and he was this cool R&B player. He's Chinese, okay. Well, I just heard the name. I got to Vancouver through one way or another. I got introduced to Tommy Chong, and what he was doing, he was running. When he was on the road to the Motown, he saw improv theater, the Second City, the Committee, whatever was out there, and he fell in love with that, and that's what he wanted to do. So he came back to Vancouver, and he started an improv group in his family's topless bar, and it's great to be young.
Okay, but before the whole situation with Tommy, when you were a writer for this Canadian publication.
Oh, yeah.
You interviewed Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Yeah, Richard Pryor. It was this magazine called Poppin'. Like, what's poppin'? So it's Poppin'. It was a scene magazine in Vancouver. And so I got assigned to, I told them I was this great writer, and they believed it. And so I got the assignment. The first assignment was to go interview Richard Pryor, who was playing in Vancouver at the time. And it was cool. I went and saw his show, and he was just starting to really cook, because he was getting out of the straight comedian's tie deal, and he was starting to cause waves, there. So like he says, "Well, come over to the hotel tomorrow. I'm not going to do it tonight. I got other stuff to do." And I said, "Well, cool." I went over, and so I went over to him the next day and to his hotel, and he did the whole interview in bed. I'm sure he was totally naked. We just done this. Had the towel around, or the blankets around him, and he started talking. There was this girl he had in the room, German, and some thing, and she just kind of sat and did the thing, blah blah blah. Well, that was cool. And then my next assignment was Little Richard. That was a cool one, right? He was crazy. He was crazy, man. But what a show. And I ran into him a bunch of times after that when I came into LA, and Richard Pryor as well.
Okay, so out in Canada, you meet Tommy Chong.
Yeah.
How did you guys decide to actually form as a group and start doing gigs together?
Well, he had this group going before I met him. And he had seen this improv groups, around Chicago and San Francisco and LA, and decided that's what he wanted to do. So his parents, Tommy always started nightclubs, so his bands would have places to play. And so he had, the last one he had was this. It was in Chinatown, and it was called the Chinese Junk, and it was a kind of a nightclub. But he turned it in his absence. His parents turned the club into the Vancouver's first topless club. And so when he came back, he said, "What's the topless club?" And so what can I do with this? He said, "We'll have topless improv." So I said, "Cool." And so then that's kind of when I met him, kind of like they'd been doing it for about 3 or 4 months. Topless girls and a couple comedians and his friends, a tap dancer and a mime artist. So I don't know, it's Canada. And so I joined that. I told him I was this great writer once again, and I wrote that another time. And he believed me. It's okay, you write for the group. So I started writing for the group, and they liked what I was doing. And that was great. And so then I started performing with the group, all the time. And so all of a sudden, the group came to a place where it was going to break up, because they wanted They go to the mountains and get their heads together. I've been to the mountains. My head was together. My pocketbook wasn't together. So he says, Tommy said, well, let's just do this thing as a duo. You're a singer, I'm a guitar player. We'll form a band and we'll have like a lounge act and we'll do bits and comedy bits and sing and rock and roll. And there we go. Sounds good to me.
Okay, so were you guys doing comedy then or just traditional music?
No, we were doing comedy. We added the traditional music after,
Aha.
Because we had to have something to do.
Okay, so you and Tommy Chong are doing these gigs in Canada, and then in 1971, you moved back to LA.
Yeah.
What made you move back to LA?
Well, we wanted to be big in showbiz, and you either go to New York or LA. And New York was cold. We didn't know anybody. LA was warm and I knew everybody because I was from LA. So the fly in the ointment was I was wanted by the FBI at the time, because of my draft deal. Because they finally did draft me while I was in Canada. I wasn't there for it. Missed that one. And I came back. But everybody in our group thought that absolutely these things this court case was going to get overturned because it was an obvious First Amendment issue, and blah blah blah. So I was back in the country. I came across with a phony ID. Back into tell you where the what is the word I want to use? The standards for persecution, I guess, were at that time that I went with my friend's driver's license with his picture on it. That's what I used for my ID. Here I am. Bill Knorr is my name. Come on. And so I went back there. So it was, but then they were after. But then my case went to the court, the circuit court there, got thrown out. And so now it was free and clear. And so a week, I'm not kidding, this is absolutely the truth. A week later, I get another notice to appear for physical 3 years later. After the case went to court and got thrown out, you have to appear for physical then. Then I wasn't in school, so I didn't know. But fortunately or unfortunately, I broke my leg very badly skiing when I was in Canada. And I went and took the physical and they 4F'd me. Boom. Physically unfit to join the army. Oh, no. I wanted to kill people.
Okay. So now you and Tommy are in LA,
Yeah.
and you guys start hitting the nightclub circuit.
Yeah. Mostly the black nightclub circuit in LA.
Right. Right. And you said that kind of became your core audience initially.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, because we both came out of black neighborhoods, me in South Central LA, and Tommy with Motown, and his first wife was black, and his kids, and so we were very, in deep in the black community, so our humor some parts of our humor evolved out of that, and so it was when we were playing clubs in LA, they had that old format, a professional MC would come out and introduce a professional comedian who would introduce this floor show of whatever group was in there. So we fit right into that format, So we mostly played black clubs, and then on Mondays we played the Hootenanny, the Troubadour on Hootenanny night in L.A. And that's where you could actually get a record contract out of there.
Okay, now playing in black clubs, I mean, they really embrace you if they love you, but if you bomb, if you look like the Apollo, they're absolutely brutal. Like, have you ever been, booed off stage or bombed on stage during this time?
Not by those people. No, never. Oh, the one time we played a Scientology meeting, something.
Okay.
I've never been stared at like that before in my life. And it's like everybody in the audience was like, hello, hi, we're funny up here, So we stayed away from that.
Okay, so you're doing these clubs in L.A., and that ultimately led to your first album deal.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys get that deal? Because, back then, comedy albums were definitely more of a thing than they are now.
Yeah, they were just starting to come. They had a wave right before us, like Lenny Bruce and Mort Saul and all those kind of guys. Annie Youngman, not Annie, any of the guys. But and they were just starting up, a group of us that came out of Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Lily Tomlin, Steve Martin was just a few weeks behind, and then us, who we got a record contract out of the Troubadour because it's very famous record producer, who was actually the biggest record producer in the world at the time, Lou Adler, saw us. And he's from Boyle Heights in East LA. So he got what we were doing right away. And so he offered us a record contract. And so we said, okay, sounds good. How much do we get? And so he says, well, how much do you need? He says, well, I'll give you $1,000. And Tommy starts reaching for the pen. I said, wait a minute. I talked to my partner here. I said, well, Mr. Adler, we since there's two of us, we'll need $2,000. And he laughed. Okay. And that's how it started, man.
Okay, you signed your first record deal for $1,000 each.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we needed a car.
You needed a car.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys dropped your first comedy album, self-titled, Cheech and Chong. And that's got the famous Dave's Not Here skit.
Yep.
How'd you guys come up with that skit?
By accident. We were different than all of our other contemporaries because their records consisted of a recording of their live act. Them on stage and the audience. And that's not what we did. We went into the studio and did bits, that could take advantage of being a studio musician, which we were, It's like we approached it like doing a music album. And so when we first started, they only had 4 tracks. And then pretty soon they had 8 and then 32 and, hey, let's fill this up with sound effects and, other voices and blah, blah, blah. And so we started doing that. So our albums were very much different than everybody else's. So the Dave thing came out of, we were rehearsing a bit and it was summer and it was hot. It was like August and it was just really hot. And so I was supposed to be this guy that came to the door, knocked on the door. He's supposed to say, come in, and we're supposed to start this bit. And so Tommy Chong, special. So he says, hey, why don't you, get into the bro, wear that big coat and that hat and when you knock on the door. I said, yeah, okay. So I got it on. I'm going to knock on the door. I'm knocking, and he's got this little recorder going there, and he's trying to see if the needle's working, and he's going, who is it? Just to see if it was registering. And who is it? You're not supposed to say who is it. You're supposed to say come in, and we're supposed to. So I knocked again. Who is it? And so it's just, I fell into character. It's me, Dave. And so now Tommy gets it that he has a chance to fuck with me. And that's exactly what he did. He started going, Dave, yeah. And Dave's not here. And that's how it came up. And I was pissed when he finally opened the door because, hey, man, it's hot out here. What the hell he does? And he's laughing his ass off. He says, you got to hear this. So he plays it back. And I fell on the floor laughing because we took it up to Lou. He fell on the floor laughing too. Okay, let's make more of these. This is good. That was our first bet ever.
Really? Okay, yeah. It's basically you saying, hey, it's Dave. Let me in. I think the cops are following me. I got the stuff on me.
Yeah.
And Tommy's like, who? Dave's not here. You just keep knocking. Yo, man, let me in. You just keep getting more and more frustrated.
It was the simple riff that it became universal. Everybody, and anybody, I pity anybody who was named Dave during that period, man, because they heard that all the time.
Okay. Was that based on any sort of reality? Did you guys ever have drug problems back then or police busting you or nothing? Or is it just all comedy?
No, it was all comedy.
All comedy.
Police loved us. As a matter of fact, when we got to be known and had albums, cops were our biggest fans.
Okay.
Because they were involved in the same things that we were involved in, just the other side of the street,
Right. Okay. So this album comes out. And it gets to number 28 on the Billboard 200.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
For a comedy album, yeah. That didn't have a hit single, or nothing like that. Yeah. It was like, because it was so different than everything else that was out there. And so the DJ started getting on it. And so when the album came out, the first week we played at the Troubadour. We opened for Cannonball Adderley, but we got paid this time at the Troubadour. And this is good. And the next gig was in New York at the Bitter End, and And so we did the first show, and it's the first time we performed outside of L.A. And it went over pretty good, not as great as we did in LA. And so our PR guy from the label came up and says, "Why didn't you guys do Dave? That's the hit here." He says, "What do you mean that's the hit here?" So he says, "Well, every all the DJs, we any good things that come over, we share them with each other, and that's a big hit. It'd only been out a week, the album. How can it be a hit? It doesn't even have any music on it." I was like, "No, it's a big hit here. Everybody's doing this Dave thing." Okay, so we didn't know how to do it on stage because we had never performed it. We just did it, and so we said, "Well, how do we do it on stage?" And the guy says, "Do it in the dark." I go, "Wow, that's a brilliant idea." So we did it in the dark, and just do it, knock, 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 knock. Who is it? And it got over because New Yorkers related to paranoia more than they did anything else, And so, hey, we were a big hit in New York.
Okay, so this album comes out. Like I said, it peaks at number 28. Does it go gold, platinum?
Yeah, gold. Almost
Gold.
platinum. Yeah.
Almost platinum. It gets nominated at the Grammys for Best Comedy Recording. So your first time at bat, you hit a home run.
Yeah, and kept hitting them.
Yeah.
That was the great part about it. Okay, now we know how to do this. We know how to do this album stuff. Let's get into it. And so right when we had the first album was already out, and it was causing a lot of sensation here around the record industry. And Lou we were an FM act. Only an FM act because it was kind of edgy what we were doing, so they didn't know if they could play us. And so Lou says, "Well, you guys got anything for AM or we could do put it?" I said, "You got anything for Christmas? You got a Christmas route?" "Yeah, sure, we got, yeah. Okay, let's go. You got anything for, yeah, Christmas? Say ho ho or something." And so we go in the studio and we started just riffing. Okay, so you're the guy, and you come up to me, and I'm I'm Chong, and I've never heard of Santa Claus. I don't know who Santa Claus is. And so I said, "Okay, well, you don't know a lot of things too, but but Santa Claus could be one of them." And so we start the riff. I don't know if you've even heard that the record, the story of Santa Claus knows a lady, but that's the riff, and huge hit. And they play it still to this day. And so we started on that riff because okay, now we can do music. Because we're musicians. And so let's get more into music, and that's how we combine both of those in the same thing.
Well, the second album that comes out a year later, Big Bamboo.
Yeah.
Which is based on bamboo rolling papers.
Yeah, a Spanish company.
Right. And I guess the original vinyl of this album had this giant rolling paper that came with it.
Yeah, that was a really got. Chris Braun, who was who designed the album, came up with the concept. He had done Sticky Fingers for the Rolling Stones, one with the zipper, and so Craig Braun, and so he came up with that. And I think that album sold 100,000 copies more than any other album we did because of that packaging. Everybody loved it. Still today, there was when people come with the albums, they want us to sign them. If they have the paper, still they get a triple sign. It's signed 3 places because they have the paper. So everybody wants that.
Oh yeah, that's a really hard to get collectible these days.
Yeah,
the original vinyl with the paper. Yeah,
but you find them.
You find them. Okay. Yeah. And once again, you get nominated for a Grammy.
Yeah.
Okay. You lost to George Carlin this time.
Yeah, I always lose to somebody.
Okay. So now you have 2 big hit albums under your belt.
Grammy nominated.
Yeah. So the next album comes out, Los Cochinos.
Yeah.
And doesn't that mean like dirty pigs?
Yeah, it does. It means a little pigs. It means the dirty guys, And that's who we were. We were the dirty guys, They can't play on AM radio. They can only play on FM. So it sounded good. Nobody really knew what it meant still, Hey, I like your album, Los Cochanges. That was a good one. And so, it was kind of another intrigue. Now, everybody that spoke Spanish, which was a big part of our audience too, Los Cochinos, oh, they're talking to us. We better pay attention now, So we had all these elements coming in that, we had a big audience of disparate parts,
So that album title has nothing to do with cops, because cops were being called pigs during that time and so forth.
No, it preferred to us. We were the cochinos. Oh, you
Got
dirty guys, kind of like that.
Got it. Once again, nominated for a Grammy.
Once again.
3 times in a row. Was that annoying, getting nominated for 3 years in a row but not winning?
No, that didn't. It started to bother us at the end. I said, "How come we? I think we should have won all the time, but that's just me." No, it wasn't. It was. We got to go to the Grammys and meet all these people, and they were. There was nothing to complain about at that time. It didn't bother us at all because I knew eventually, if we kept making records, we'd win a Grammy or something.
Okay, so here you are with 3 big albums under your belt. You're touring like crazy. But I guess by that time, in 1973, you didn't even realize how successful you were until each of you got a check in the mail for $800,000.
Yeah. That'll clue you in right away.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were like $1,000. We got $1,000. It went from there to all of a sudden we were getting checks for $800,000, $500,000 the next day, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, whoa, and then touring. So we were making all kinds of money all the time. So, hey, this could work out, this comedy thing.
Right, because you're 27 at this point, and you're now a millionaire.
Well, could be, yeah. Until I got married, and then,
Okay, I mean, how does a 27-year-old, from South LA really deal with that much money at that point?
I put it in the bank. I've never been a big spender in my life, kind of luxury cars. I could care less about cars. I mean, I just, as long as they run and the air conditioner works, I don't care. I can have any car. But all of a sudden we got the money, I just started putting it away. I started collecting art at that time. And then, I had mothers and father and mother and sisters, and they all needed help in doing whatever they were doing. So that went to that too, and but then we made another album, we got another check, and they kept coming in and like, oh, this is cool. So we did that until we couldn't do it anymore, man. I can't be on the road anymore. I can, but I need a break, And albums, I said, and Tommy said, well, what are we going to do? I said, well, we got to make movies. All comedy troupes have movies.
Right, I want to get to that.
Okay.
But before you took a break, you had one more album, which was the wedding album.
Oh, the wedding album, yeah. Hey, Grammy, yeah. I knew if we kept trying, we'd get one, And it was fun. I think for Earache My Eye.
Right.
Yeah.
Earache My Eye, which was a song and a skit.
Yeah.
But the song itself actually became a hit. It was number 8 or 9 on the charts?
It might have been number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a couple of number 1 albums. Yeah, I think Bamboo and the next one after that were number 1 albums.
Right. So Earache My Eye hit the song charts.
Yeah.
I mean, later on, Korn redid the song. Soundgarden redid the song.
It used to piss all the record guys off that we were on the charts, taking up space where their artists could be. You're not even music, you're on the charts. That's right.
Right. And then you guys take a break for a little while, for about a year or so.
Yeah, we needed a break. I mean, we would play up to 300 dates a year.
Wow.
For a lot of years. And so I can't do this no more,
Okay, so then in 75, you get married.
Yeah.
You had a child.
I did. Carmen, my daughter.
Mm-hmm. And then the next year, you dropped the Sleeping Beauty album.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think after Wedding album, we said, we got to take time off and let's write this movie that we want to do. Okay, great. So we started writing, and we had no idea of how to write a movie script. We just started writing, and then we came out with a phone book at the end, and we handed it in to Lou, and Lou says, well, I've shown it to people, and I said, cut out about 200 pages, and that'll kind of get you into the range, Okay, so we'll do that, and so So we did, and so at the end of that, the record or the movie deal didn't come through. It just kind of lingered there for a little while, and so he said, "Well, we gotta do something. Let's go back on the road, and work on that till this movie deal comes through." So we went back on the road and did another album, and kept that, and then the movie deal finally did come through, and yay, big hit movie, just like big hit record.
Right. So in 78, your first movie comes out, Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke.
Yeah.
You got a $2 million budget.
Was it that much?
Yeah.
I don't think it was that much. I think it was, well, when we stopped filming, it was 800,000.
Aha.
And then,
okay, which is a relatively small budget for that time.
It's minuscule.
Minuscule.
Yeah.
The movie comes out. The reviewers didn't really like it, but it made $104 million in the box office.
Some very prominent reviewers did like it a lot. Okay. Pauline Kael from The New Yorker was her favorite album of the year. And so everybody is, yeah. And so, but have you read Pauline Kael's review? And so it was like, we never really paid attention to those things because we were getting our reports from the reviews from the audience every night. So.
Well, right. I mean, was this the first stoner movie?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, what's a marijuana? Reefer Madness was a story about the evil stoners. We weren't the evil stoners; we were the funny stoners, now. And I guess it was. So everybody kind of got on it, but it was funny because we had all kinds of different bits. I think when we added it up at the end, maybe 5% of our material had anything to do with marijuana. Through all the albums and stuff, but here we are.
Well, I mean, this pretty much set up a new genre. I mean, that's still running to this day. I mean, if you look at all the kind of weed stoner movies that have come out, what are some of your favorites?
I like the Fridays, those guys, Ice Cube. No, Ice. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's Ice Cube.
Yes, Ice Cube. And what's his other name? Chris Tucker. Mm-hmm. He was in, and so there were a lot of because they're again a black audience. They understood what we were doing, and we were in their sense of humor. So we were big in the black community. That movie still are, So it was cool.
Okay, so and there's a big difference between having a hit comedy album or doing a bunch of shows to actually having a movie.
Yeah.
So suddenly your face is out there and you guys are now Hollywood stars.
Yeah. Because in the records, nobody knew what we looked like. They knew what we sounded like, but they didn't know which one was Cheech and which one was Chong, or who did that voice and who's the other guy that does that voice. And, we were just two voices coming out of the speaker. You get to movies, that's the guy that does that voice. And, the big thing that happened to us at that time with the movies is that we became international because the movies could be translated or dubbed or subtitled, and so they could be seen all over the world in whatever language they had there, and that stoner element all over the world, which was spreading, now, and that they embraced. So we became international in one fell swoop.
Now, after that movie came out, you started getting offers to do solo acting gigs, right?
Yeah. Not a bunch, but some.
Okay, and you turned them down because you didn't want to separate from Tommy.
Yeah, we had a good thing going. It was a comedy troupe, and I didn't want to, and there was two guys, and we were a classic comedy team, just like Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, or any of those guys, and so we were good for movies, and so I don't know if I wanted to go back to records again. We were on this path, and I didn't want to. I wanted to be with Tommy because all of a sudden we were unique, and then we got the point where we were both very strong personalities, and then we got the point where we're like I'm a stronger personality than you. Oh, no, you're not. And we decided to take a little break for 20 years.
I mean, at that time, you said, Tommy always had a very big ego. That's fine. You need a big ego to succeed in showbiz. But after that movie, it expanded into megalomania.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, Tommy, Tommy always... in all the groups he had, he always started the groups, the bands or whatever those things are. And he found the clubs to work in, blah blah blah. But he wasn't the star of the group. It was usually the lead singer that was the star of the group, and he was the guitar player. Even if he wrote the songs. And so he got tired of that because it happened every time, and so he wanted to have his name on that, whatever he did next. And so, me too. So that's how we got to Cheech and Chong. But then he got to the point where he wanted to be known as, he's the director and the writer, and I guess I say the funny lines. And so I said, well, I write as much as you, and I direct probably even more than you. But it was a way to keep the thing together. But he started pushing that angle more. And so so we kind of separated for a little while. He was living in France with his wife and kids, and I think he lived there for like 4 or 5 years or somewhere around there.
Right, but that came later because
that came
right because in 1980 you guys had Cheech and Chong's next movie.
Yeah. Well, we made a bunch of movies, and then after that, he just like, I don't want you to write anymore.
Okay.
I'll do the writing and you do the making faces, I guess.
Okay, well, Cheech and Chong's next movie, was that the one with the pendejo skit?
Yeah, it was.
Right. Where it was like, you're like, hey, call those people a pendejo. It's like, what does that mean? Oh, it means a very good friend. And then he pulled up to the group of Mexicans like, hey, pendejos.
Hey, bendecos.
And they all get angry.
It's called them bendecos. It was even worse.
Okay, and this movie became a hit also. It made $42 million at the box office.
Yeah. We're doing good.
So now the sophomore jinx is over. You guys have 2 hit movies. Yeah. You guys are actual movie stars now.
Yeah, we're actually, a well-known worldwide comedy team at this point, and it was going really good until it wasn't. And we'd been together for a long time, and I think both of us needed a break, we're at that point.
Well, right, because in 81, you had the Nice Dreams movie.
Yeah.
That made $35 million.
Yeah.
So now there's 3 movies that did well. Then in 82, there's the Things Are Tough All Over movie. $7 million budget. It made $21 million. And this movie, it did well, but it didn't do as well as the other ones.
Yeah. I think you'll find that true with any actor or any group or anybody that goes into movies. Some do better, some do worse. They don't just keep going off into the stratosphere. You never see them again or something. I don't know.
So then in 83, you had Still Smoking.
Yeah.
That made $15 million.
Yeah.
But the reviews weren't as good as the other films.
Oh, well, they didn't know what they were talking about. What were they? Yeah, they were reviewers. What do they know?
Okay. So then in 1984, you guys did The Corsican Brothers.
Mm.
Now, this was the first movie that wasn't based on kind of 2 stoners.
Yeah.
This was totally different. This was like, a period piece, swashbucklers. And I remember watching it, I thought it was a cool movie.
Yeah. A lot of people liked it.
But was that the movie with the French bread?
Yeah.
Tommy used the swords?
Yeah. They're hard as bricks.
Okay. And this movie only made $4 million.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that was basically the last live action movie that you guys did.
Well, that was.
Was it because the movie didn't do good that kind of caused some friction?
No, it was during that movie, making of that movie, that the friction was starting to build between us. He wants to do this and I want to do that, and it's too complicated to go into. But anyways, and I was going through a divorce at that same time when we ended the movie, and so I just left it at that. Okay, well, you want to live in France for a little while? Go. I'm going back to L.A. and deal with this divorce, and I just went home and just smoked dope and played guitar and like. But during that period, all of a sudden I started watching TV, and that's when MTV first started coming out. And I looked at it, says, these are videos, like they're like songs, song titles, and they can be acting, and they can be funny, and they can be musical. It's perfect for us. we'll make video albums for MTV, and we're because that's what we're doing now. But we'll make them in shorter formats. I came up with. I started writing stuff, and I told Tommy, "Hey, this is this. I ran on Hustle the Deal, a record deal with Irving Azoff. He was running Universal. Pitched him on the subject. I think Born in East LA came out of that." So I wanted Tommy to come over and we'll finish the album. He didn't want to come and blah blah blah, and one thing led to another, and then I got the idea he didn't want to participate anymore, and so I said, okay, well, I'm going to participate, and so I went on and started. So Born in East LA came on, and it was a big hit.
All right. So the Get Out of My Room album had Born in East LA, which was a parody of Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA.
Uh-huh.
So did he have to sign off on that?
Yeah.
Or?
As long as you gave him money, he signed off on it.
Okay, so he had no problem signing off on it.
No, not. I wrote him a big letter. Roy Bittan, who's his piano player, was one of my best friends during this period, and it didn't help me anyway. But I went right to Bruce, sent him a letter, and blah blah blah, and he read it. And okay, to us to go do it, and away we went. Or I went, anyways.
Well, I mean, I remember during that time on MTV, like Born in East LA was like a big hit.
Oh, it was huge. It was there again, a #1 record and a #1 video at the same time. Yay!
Yeah. So now you're an MTV star as well as a movie star and a music star.
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk it? Okay, and based on the strength of that song, there was the Born in East LA movie.
Yeah. And that did really well. And that was great. It was a huge hit.
And you were actually the director of that film.
Writer and director, yeah.
Writer and director. And I mean, I remember watching it. It's basically, I remember the plot was that you were this Mexican-American guy and you get picked up by immigration. And since you don't have your papers on you, they assume that you're like an illegal alien. So they ship you back to Mexico. And then the rest of the movie is you trying to get back in the USA.
Yeah. It was based off a true story. I was reading the newspaper. I was writing the very last bits for this video album that what I wanted us to do, and I was writing, and I needed one more song or one more bit, and I was reading my morning paper, drinking coffee, and I was reading this article in the paper. A kid was like around 12 or 13 and didn't speak English very well and not Spanish, where he had some kind of a developmental problem, and they thought he was just Mexican, and he was caught in a raid, and they sent him back to Tijuana, and nobody knew where he was. His parents didn't know where he was. He didn't know where he was. He was walking around in Tijuana without any clue for over a month. And they finally, reconciled it and came back. And I started singing. And Springsteen's record was playing at the same time on the radio. And I said, too bad this kid was born in East LA. And I started singing Born in East LA. I started cracking myself up, Born in East LA. I said, that's it. That's the other song. And so I said, but I got to find out what Springsteen was singing about in this other, because all I knew was every once in a while he sang Born in USA. So I went down and got it's about Vietnam and the returning soldiers. Perfect. So I wrote the song, wrote all the, and I knew I had to get permission, so I wrote him a letter through to the friends that I knew, and he said okay, and then away we went.
Okay, so now you had a whole bunch of movies with Chong, and now you have a solo movie that was a hit.
Yeah.
So now you're getting into your own solo career.
Yeah.
Well, you started doing some voiceovers for some animated films. I think was the first one. What was it?
Oliver and Company.
Oliver and Company. You played Tito the Chihuahua.
Tito the Chihuahua. It was. I got this. That's animation is really what set me up after Tommy and I broke up. Animation. I got called in to audition for this movie, as a voice, and I went in and did it, and I had never done that before. It was always just me, and I didn't do very good. I was like, okay, so I was just finding my way through what you're supposed to, what level, blah, blah, blah. And so I got in the parking lot, and everybody said, "Oh, well, thank you very much." Okay, well, thank you. And I got in the parking lot. I said, man, that fucking sucked, man. I'm going to go do it again. I'm going to see if they'll let me. So I went back in and he says, hey, man, what I did sucked. I want to do it again if you do it. I said, okay, sure. So the director, George Scrivener, actually spoke Spanish because he lived in Panama with his family for a number of years. And so he was in tune to kind of which way he wanted it to go. And so I said, you got any direction here if you want to give me for this? He said, play it like you have your finger stuck in a light socket. And I said, say no more. And I went in there and at full volume, and then you could see everybody in the studio changing. Oh, hey, wait a minute. And the animators are all drawing me, blah, 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 this like that. And the guy finished it, and I couldn't speak after it because he's like at full volume and that voice all the time. And the guy said, okay, well, we're going to start this in about 2 weeks. So this is your start date. Okay, I could do that, and it was like, that was my out, this is my path. I was going forward on this anime thing. And then we started doing a lot of them. Next one came up was Lion King.
Right. I was going to mention that. Yeah, you played Banzai the Hyena.
Banzai the Hyena. Actually, it was supposed to be the two it was me and Whoopi Goldberg and Ed Cummings that did, but it was supposed to be me and Tommy and Whoopi Goldberg, but he turned it down because he didn't want to do Disney movies or something. I guess that was the deal. So I go, okay, well, I'll pick up your check instead.
All right. I mean, Lion King went down to become what many consider as the best Disney movie of all time.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. I mean, it really, but the thing, it came in at the same time the VHS was coming in and compact discs were coming in. And so the VHS or what did they call it in those days? It was VHS or?
Beta.
No, Beta.
Beta and VHS were the two competing formats.
VHS, but they were, you could buy like a movie like a record. And it was the first one coming out, and what was I going to say? So anyways, it sold, I think, 15 million VHS recording and 15 million albums, of the soundtrack. So they're getting paid for 30 million albums all at once, all around the world. And like, yo, I'm going to do this for a little while, man, because this is good, man.
Well, right. You went on to do Ramon and Cars, and then also Cars 2 and Cars 3. So you were really doing a lot of animation stuff.
Yeah, I was. It was like, this is what I want to do, man. This is cool. And I've done a lot of other ones that are just they always ask me to, most of the time, be in them, even if it's just a little part. It was kind of like when John Lasseter was there, I was always in every one of those movies. So that was cool.
Okay, then 1990, you did Shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah. It was a solo effort. It was okay. It was good. It was funny. Yeah.
Yep. But then in 1992, you and Chong got back together to do Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what led up to you guys working together again?
I don't know. I think they wanted him to do it. They had a part for him, and he finally decided, well, Cheech is doing okay on this, maybe I'll do it too. So he came in, and it wasn't really particularly a Cheech and Chong part. They just wanted two voices in there, I guess. So we did that, and then we didn't work again together for a while.
I mean, did you guys reunite, or did you guys work out any of your differences during that time, or not really?
Yeah. I think, I don't know what the time, I can't remember what the timeline is specifically, but we decided to waited a little while, and then we got this big offer to go on the road again, to thing, and so okay, and let's try it. So I got together with Tommy, and he was doing a show. He was working with his wife Shelby a lot, and they were a team. Then they were doing a show in La Jolla, the Comedy Store down there, and he says, "Hey, come down to La Jolla and sit in with the show, So I said, okay, sure. Went down. And we had not talked about it. We had not rehearsed, nothing. We hadn't done anything in years and years and years. And when I got him and started doing the bit in the car, he walked on stage, and that was it. It was like we never left. And so okay, we got this big. If you want to, we got this big tour going on, and it's going to do really well. If you want, that's what we did. And then
Love it.
we were on together for another almost 10 years,
Mm.
I guess.
Okay, so then 1996 comes around.
Ah,
The
yes,
movie,
96.
the movie Tin Cup,
Yeah.
starring Kevin Costner and Rene Russo, with you and Don Johnson having major supporting roles on it.
Uh-huh.
Now, this movie made like $76 million at the box office.
Yeah.
Costner got nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor. Was this the biggest like live action film you ever were involved in?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a big deal, big fat movie star and a A-list director, Ron Shelton, and great. I mean, and I was, hey, this is a full-fledged A-list movie with a big director and big movie star, and I got a good part in it, and which I'm going to make even better right now. And we had a great time. It was wonderful, man. It was like, it just came out great, and Ron just really gave me free reign, So he says, I mean, first couple of weeks we were in there and we were in Phoenix. Yeah, Tucson. And we were in Tucson and we were going out to dinner one night, and he says, "Well, how you doing? How you liking being in the movie?" I said, "Well, it's good." So, no, what song? I said, "Well, I just want to get two weeks in the can, so it'll be harder to fire me when you want." And he looked at me. He says, "This is your movie. Go for it." And this is the director telling me, like, I said, "Say no more." That's it, man. Okay, and we had a ball from the rest and from that. Don was going to start this series, and we did one scene together, and he asked me to be in the series with him as his partner in that. We had known each other before as young bachelors in Hollywood. And there was, all the young bachelors in Hollywood always generally find themselves at the same place at 2:00 in the morning, whatever nightclub that was, and the lights come on. But we started being buddies and hanging around, and I didn't see him, and he was, I think he only had a couple movies at the time out, and and the next thing I knew, he was Miami Vice. And the biggest star in the world. He was on every magazine cover you could think of,
Mm-hmm.
And then he got cast in Tin Cup, back together.
Right. I mean, any interesting stories? I mean, any interesting Kevin Costner stories during the making of Tin Cup?
Oh well, I don't know what you would consider interesting. No, he was just a hard worker. Well, they're funny. I got it because came out of improv, so I could do the lines like they were written. If I thought they were funny enough, I would do it, or I would make up some of my own, and that had the same information but in a funny way. So he started getting on that a little bit too, and he was very, and it led him for a very fluid movie, very very naturalistic. So and Renee and I were friends for a long time before this movie. My first wife was a model, and she was modeling with Renee, and then Donnie and Costner was the new guy, but he did okay.
Okay, and well, like you had mentioned, that film led on to you getting a role on Nash Bridges.
Yeah,
which starred Don Johnson, Yasmin Bleeth, and Jamie P. Gomez.
Yeah.
Was that the first like regular TV show that you had?
No, I had done a Golden Palace.
Oh, that was a spinoff from Golden Girls?
Yeah. It's B. Arthur left, and I came in, and I was the scenario was that the girls had moved to Miami and bought a hotel, and they were running this hotel, and I was the cook, and Don Cheadle was the general manager, night clerk. Yeah, but I wanted to do it because I wanted to work with Betty White, because she was like, Betty White was the very first person I ever saw on TV as a kid. The very
Okay.
first person. She was the teenage hostess of Al Jarvis's Make Believe Ballroom, which was like a American Bandstand West Coast version, and she was the cutie teenage girl that helped him out there, and she was the cutest girl I'd ever seen as a young kid.
Okay, and that show ran for 6 seasons.
Yeah. Oh, not Golden Palace, but
No, I'm talking about Nash Bridges.
oh, Nash Bridges, yeah, 6. Yeah,
Yeah,
6.
Nash Bridges ran for 6 seasons.
Yeah.
So it was like a hit TV show.
Yeah, we were in the top 25 or top 20 every week.
What's different about being on a hit TV show versus having a hit movie?
Oh, okay. The difference is more people see one episode of Nash Bridges than the top 10 movies put together a week.
Wow. Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. Was the money better on TV than movies?
If you stayed long enough, yeah.
Mm.
But if you're a big movie star, big movie stars get paid a lot.
Right. Which do you prefer, TV or movies?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter. You know, I like everything has it. Do you like acoustic guitar or electric guitar? I like guitar.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. So then in 2001, the movie Spy Kids comes out. And you play Felix Gum, the fake uncle.
Yeah.
And how did you and Robert Rodriguez really get together on this?
Well, who? I'd heard about Robert, because he was coming up through the festival circuit. And he had this movie that he made called Mariachi. And he made it when he was still a student at the University of Texas, and he made it for $7,000. And it was a big hit on the independent movie circuit, and so I heard about it. I heard he was coming to town, and I met up with him at some event, and he was trying to get together his first movie, Desperado, and he said, "I want you to be in this movie," and I said, "Okay, kid. As soon as you get the money, give me a call." And so he did. After a while, he got the money to make the movie, and I was in Desperado. Yeah. That's one, the Desperado. And then I started working in all his movies, one after the other.
Right, because then in 2003, you were in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, a.k.a. Desperado 2.
Yeah. With Johnny Depp. I like Johnny Depp.
Yes. Johnny Depp, Salma Hayek.
Salma.
And of course, Antonio Banderas.
And him.
That guy. Yeah.
Some other actor,
he had a minor role in that movie.
Yeah.
You could almost forget him. I mean, what is it about Robert Rodriguez that really sets him apart? Because I feel like he's one of these really standout directors.
Oh, he is. He writes and directs and operates the camera at the same time. I don't know any director that does that these days. He operates the camera. And so he has a method where he can talk to you while he's looking through the lens. Okay, or give me this kind of face, and he's zooming in towards you, and he's talking to you. I said, okay, look over to the right, blah, 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 and then say, blah, blah, but he's talking to you all the time. And I said, okay, this works out. I could do this. And then he knew my rhythm because he grew up as a Cheech and Chong fan from a little kid. And I knew his rhythm, seeing what he was doing. So it was a perfect match. And I think I've done, God, I don't know, eight movies or something like that with him.
Yeah.
Over the years. Yesterday. Wow.
Yeah. You're his go-to guy.
Hey, I'm a Mexican. I got to have 3 jobs at all times, man.
Right. Okay. So that same year, the Desperado 2 comes out, 2003. Mm-hmm. You and Tommy Chong were supposed to reunite for another movie. And then Tommy Chong gets raided by the feds.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was a setup. It was a scam by the government, man, because they were. I can't remember the guy who was Attorney General at the time. He had this anti what do they call it? Merchandise, dope merchandise campaign going on, and he needed a face for his little campaign there, and Tommy was the perfect face, and they got him for selling bongs across state lines, which he never did, because they planted somebody in his company that made the order that sent it across state lines.
Right. I mean, I remember seeing a documentary about this. So I guess it was actually his son's company.
Yeah, it was his son's
primarily.
company.
And yeah, someone placed an order for some bongs across state lines, and they couldn't ship the order, just sat there for months. And they kept calling, they kept calling, they kept calling. And then someone finally said, all right, screw it. We'll just ship the order. And then that was enough for them to bust them.
Yeah,
so
basically.
suddenly there's this huge FBI raid. And it's not like these guys were selling bricks of cocaine or anything. It was just bongs.
Just
Something that these
bongs.
days no one even cares about.
Yeah, they were bongs, handmade, beautifully crafted bongs. They were sold for a lot of money. They're really worth a lot of money now, and it was actually Tommy's wife Shelby and his son that had the company, and so they came to Tommy and said, if you don't step up and take these charges, we're going to send your son and your wife to prison. Mm-hmm. And so he stood up, and he went to Taft. It was a kind of Camp Cupcake, but it was still jail. When you go, I did 9 months and then he got out.
Right. So he gets sentenced to 9 months in federal prison. He got fined $20,000 and he had to forfeit $120,000 in assets.
Yep.
And when he was locked up,
huh?
I'm sorry. Nice,
what
was that?
Nice government you got there. What was his name? What was the Attorney General's name at that time? I can't remember. He was on this. He was like the Michael Flynn of that president, whoever he was.
Right. And I guess while he was locked up, his cellmate was Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, crazy. So you start this country club prison. I guess Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong is your cellmate.
That's right. Yes,
and
Tommy's my cellmate, which was awesome.
Yep, I bet. Did you guys actually smoke weed in prison?
No.
No? Oh, man.
Nah, I'm not a pot smoker. I don't think he did either,
Okay. Right, because he was actually in jail for pot.
No.
I mean, sort of. Well, it was for selling paraphernalia, where his son was selling it.
Ridiculous.
And they just wanted to bust him.
Ridiculous. I mean, he was there for the most idiotic thing. He should not have been in jail. It was nonsense.
No, yeah, I know the story. There's a whole documentary about
Nonsense.
it. It was ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Okay.
I deserve to go to jail. He didn't deserve to go to jail.
Well, you meet a lot of those guys in there.
Yep. Okay, so then 2004, Tommy gets out.
Yeah.
And you guys were supposed to do a reunion movie. I guess it was supposed to be called Grumpy Old Stoners.
Could be.
But then it got scrapped.
Yeah. A lot of movies get scrapped. I don't know why it got scrapped. Well, what happened? I don't know. It's a movie that I don't pay attention because we didn't make it.
Because you didn't make it.
Yeah,
okay. And then in 2007, you were in Grindhouse.
Yeah. That's another
which was Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino this time.
Yeah. Which they two were buddies. Quentin and Robert were because they came up with that independent circuit at the same time, and so he was always and he was a big Cheech and Chong fan too, Quentin, and he was like he worked in a video store, and so he saw every movie that was ever in. So when Cheech and Chong, he knew him encyclopedic about those movies. And so he knew where I fit in his little scheme, and so I started working with him as well.
What was Quentin Tarantino like to work with?
He's a character. He's a real character, very hyper, but he knows exactly what he's talking about because he has this vast knowledge of movies, and he kind of knows more technique than we did, and he kind of knows what he wants that movie to be, which is a big deal, because you make your first movie, like, I don't know what you do, No, he knew because he had all these references, that he did.
Yeah, no, Quentin's one of the great directors of this era.
Yeah,
you can't deny that.
Absolutely great.
Yeah. You can't deny it. I mean, when I watched, Pulp Fiction, it was like, oh, okay, wow, yeah. Who is this guy?
This is really good. He made a lot of. I think he's going to make some more too. I hope he does.
Yeah.
Because he says he only wants to make 9 movies or something. There's something like that going on. And after he's made 9, he's not going to work anymore.
Well,
I don't know.
I guess it's good to be rich to the point where you don't have to.
Or crazy.
You can just do what you feel like doing when you feel like doing it, Okay, so then by 2008, you and Chong kind of reunited. You guys had the Light Up America comedy tour. You did a Funny or Die video. You guys had a roast.
Yeah, we had a roast. It was great. They gave us a lot of weed for it. That's all I remember.
That's all you got paid in weed?
Yeah. No, we got money, but they gave us a lot of weed for some reason. Bags.
Well, speaking of weed, in 2009, while you were in Sydney, Australia for the Light Up Tour, you get raided by the police.
We did?
Yeah. No, you don't remember it? But the New South Wales Police Department, 25 police and drug dogs came in. They searched 50 people, and they found a little bit of weed on like 6 people.
I don't
No?
remember
You
that.
don't remember
They
this?
didn't find no weed on me? So I don't remember it. Your
You
Honor.
don't remember. All right, we'll just say it never happened.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. That's good. It never happened. None
It
of what
never
you're talking
happened.
about.
It never happened. Okay, and then in 2010, you showed up in Machete.
Yeah. So Robert made that? No.
Yes.
Yeah, Robert made that, yeah. With Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo, who I interviewed not too long ago.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, he was,
Yeah.
Machete was good.
Yeah, I mean, Danny's sort of a very interesting character because he didn't start out as an actor at all. He was a gang member at one point.
No,
you know?
I don't know if he was a gang member, but
He was gang affiliated.
Yeah, gang affiliate.
Yeah.
Gang adjacent, I think.
Gang adjacent. Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I mean,
but
he knew
he
some
was,
of the major guys in the Mexican mafia, and we talked about all this, you know. We actually went into a whole story in our interview about how remember the movie American Me?
Yeah.
He talked about how 10 people got killed over that movie because of the rape scene, of the Mexican mafia leader. And then like they lost it.
And from what I understand, some of the people featured in that movie, like I think like
Lot of them.
got killed
There was-
because of them being in that movie.
4 out here and about, I think 6 in prison.
6 people got killed over American Me,
Yeah, probably about
just being
8.
part of it.
Yeah. But, and it was funny because I remember Donald Garcia, another Mexican mafia that got out and turned Christian, just straight out said, they were talking about no, and he go, yeah, that falls on you, Eddie, so.
Okay.
So you've got to be, the power of cinema, you got to be really careful.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And I don't mean, am I offending somebody? No, you just got to be real careful about telling the truth. Okay. The leader of the Mexican mafia was never raped.
Do you remember that whole story?
I remember hearing that story. I don't know how much of it is truth or not. But
Fair enough.
But there was stuff going. Danny did a fair time in prison.
Yeah.
He was a drug addict, and to get drugs he became an armed robber. Him and his cousin, they used to rob white front stores. They're like what's the comparison today? White front, it was like they sell appliances, washing machines, refrigerators, dryers, all that stuff. And they were all the same, exactly the same. So they knew how they were, what was open, what doors they could go out. They used to, and so the cops finally figured it out that we got some guys knocking over white front stores. We'll just wait at the next white front stores for them to show up, and they did. Danny and his cousin, and then they say, "We got a new room for you."
I mean, it was a very over the top. I mean, it wasn't really a comedy, but it definitely was very funny. It was kind of like a gory comedy takeoff of slash and gore films. I mean, what was different about making this film than your other ones? Because it was very different from your other films.
Machete was, the first 10 minutes of that film was the funniest and goriest movie that I'd ever seen.
Right.
You were laughing and, oh God, at the same time. But it was like, I'd never seen that combination. And Robert could do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it just shows the flexibility of a Rodriguez to do all, you could do a Spy Kids, you could do a Machete, which is like, one has nothing to do with the other, but they both work.
Yeah, both. I had at that, before he did Spy Kids, I had this children's album I made, and I made a couple of them, and called Cheech the Bus Driver, and it was a big hit. That had the #1 children's title or tune of the year, and they wanted to make a movie out of it. So they came to me and they said, I think there's a movie here. Is there anybody you'd like to direct this? So I said, Robert Rodriguez would be good. And they looked at me like, are you out of your mind? He's all blood and guts and, decapitations and splurting and everything. And I said, no, he's got this other whole side that you don't even know about. It's about kids movie. Because the first thing he ever showed me, he came when I first met him, I invited him out to spend the weekend, he and his wife Elizabeth, spend the weekend out at the beach with us. And he showed me this movie he made when he was a student called Bedhead. And it was, he made it with his brothers and sisters because he's got, there's 10 of them. 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and it was Spy Kids. It was exactly the meter of Spy Kids, and it was funny, and he did it all by himself. And I said, no, he's got this other side that you know. So when Spy Kids came out, so I can't get him now. He's too expensive.
Okay, then in 2011, you and Tommy Chong were on The Simpsons.
Yeah,
Right.
you've made it when they do a whole episode of The Simpsons on you, man.
Exactly. And I guess in the Simpsons episode, you and Tommy break up and Homer takes his place.
Yeah. My dream come true.
So it's Cheech and Homer.
Yeah,
Or
Cheech and Homer.
Cheech and Simpson.
Yeah, there we go. We could do that.
Yeah, there we go. Cheech and Simpson.
Yeah,
I can see that. That'd be an interesting spin-off from The Simpsons, Cheech and Simpson.
That came about because Dan Castellaneta, who was on the show, and he does most of the voices. I think he does Homer Simpson. He was a big fan of Cheech and Chong, and he wanted to do an episode of us. So I think he wrote the whole thing, and then he directed it, and asked us to do it. That's how that came about.
Right. And I actually forgot to mention, you did From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, I did.
That was a big one.
Yes, it was. It was good. Dusk Till Dawn. Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. No, I totally, I almost missed that. And
almost
Robert
did
Rodriguez
too.
did that as well.
Yeah.
And Quentin Tarantino. So Quentin Tarantino was an actor in it, but did he
was an
produce it
actor.
or
No, he was an actor in it.
just an actor?
I believe so. I'm sure he gave a lot of input
Yeah.
to Robert, but no, he was an actor in it, And then we started, I don't know if I ever worked with him as a director. Did I? You know more than I do at this point.
Well, what do you call it? I mean, what I just mentioned, Grindhouse.
Yeah.
So did he direct or co-direct Grindhouse? Or?
He directed his Grindhouse part, and Robert directed his Grindhouse part.
Aha, got it. I mean, Dusk Till Dawn starred George Clooney, who was a megastar at this point.
TV.
Oh, no, wait, hold on. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he was a megastar on TV, but that was his first movie.
Yeah, that was the first
Right.
movie.
I remember this. Yeah, so they were still testing him out for the movies, and he nailed it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, he was born to play this role. I mean, he was just as great at it. And I couldn't believe that he had never made a movie before. Betty White had never made a movie before when I was working with her.
Aha.
You know?
Okay. And Danny Trejo was in the movie as well.
Danny Trejo was in the movie as well.
Yes.
And he had just gotten out of the Slam too, man. And so he was going through all those changes. How do you do this? How do you fit in? What do I do to be accepted? And am I a good enough actor? But he was more than good enough. He was authentic.
I just interviewed Fred the Hammer Williamson recently, and he was in that movie as well.
He was in there, old Fred. Yeah,
Old Fred.
The Hammer.
I remember, Fred. He had these 3 rules whenever he did a movie.
My 3 rules have not changed. 1, you can't kill me in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
2, I have to win all my fights in a movie. 3, I get the girl if I want her. Now, that was the smart part. The girl was the smart part because I know they weren't going to let me have the girl.
Mm.
So they had to give up something. So I gave them an out. The out was, Hammer, you can't have the girl. Oh, well, okay, dang. You can't kill me, but I have to win my fights.
Sounds like rules to live by.
Yeah. And, but he basically says he's willing to, somewhat compromise on one of them as long as the other two are there. And he gets killed in Dusk Till Dawn, but I guess, you know,
Yeah, well, that was
he
the one
doesn't lose a
didn't
fight. And let's not forget the Salma Hayek snake scene in that movie.
Ooh.
Woo! Woo!
My dear God, I've never seen a woman with that many curves in that short a space in my life, man. She's like, and I was sitting right at the end of that runway
Right.
during that scene. I was sitting right at the end, and she's walking down that runway to me with that white snake. I could have sold my seat for a lot of money. Everybody wanted to be in that seat. Yeah. Yowie. She's really developed, you know, from that.
That is
Because
an
Robert
epic
discovered
scene.
her. She was in a Mexican soap opera.
Oh, was that her first role?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Well,
No, Desperado. She was in Desperado.
oh, she's in Desperado. Okay.
This was her second role.
And then in 2012, you were on the sitcom Rob with Rob Schneider.
Yeah. I don't know why that didn't go. We were like top 10 every week. We were on there, and then for some reason, it didn't go. We did like, I don't know, 10, 12 shows of it.
Yeah.
Was in the top 10 every week, and no.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything else? Yeah. Yeah, I got something for you.
Well, weren't you in Lost during that year?
Yeah.
I mean, that may be my favorite TV show of all time.
It's a good TV show.
Ooh, it was incredible.
The producer of that, I'm blanking. I'm at the point in my life where I'm blanking on everybody's name, but he was the producer of Nash Bridges at the same time. And then he went from Nash Bridges to Lost.
You talking about Carlton Cuse?
Carlton Cuse, that's what I'm talking.
Yeah. That was a very different type of show because it was so unique. It was like you just had no idea what was happening in the beginning, but it was so intriguing. And then you had flashbacks and flash forwards, and it was like it was such a complex movie, and it was designed to actually have a beginning and an end. And how many seasons did it go? Like 10 seasons or something?
No, it didn't go. It went like 6 seasons, 7. Yeah,
Six seasons. My bad. 6 seasons.
Yeah, I think 6 seasons. You know,
That was a hell of a show, man.
It was a great show. It was a great show. He went right from Nash Bridges to Lost.
Right.
Carlton.
Right. So in 2012, Tommy Chong went on CNN. He said he had prostate cancer. Were you aware of this?
Yeah. Yeah, I was aware. And it's just, you kind of cross your fingers and hope. And he's doing really well right now. So that was good. We didn't lose him. And he's now he's 85, looks good, has fun. He's in good health. And so this is good.
So he totally beat it.
So far, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So then in 2013, you and Tommy had an animated movie. Cheech and Chong's animated movie is what it was called.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember this?
No.
No?
No.
Hold on a
Animated movie.
second.
What happened in this animated movie?
Hold on a second. Am I wrong on this? Hold on a second. Cheech and Chong's animated movie. Yeah, I'm actually looking up the Wikipedia page.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Enlighten me.
Does this look familiar right here?
I still don't know it. I
Still don't know it.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. It was like a pilot for a TV series, I think. I don't remember it much.
Okay. Clearly not a standout for you.
Yeah, clearly. Because I was in other
Okay.
animated movies that were really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In 2018, you guys were on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Hmm?
And recently, John Bonner had joined the board of a marijuana company. And you guys were talking about how marijuana is no longer rebellious anymore. And, you could buy weed from a strip store and everything else like that.
You can buy a bag of weed and a dozen jelly donuts at the same place, man.
Yeah. I mean, how'd you feel when weed was legalized? Because I remember I was in the Bay during the early times when things were about to be legalized. And I remember I was at Tony Serra's law office, and he was one of the main kind of lawyers behind it.
Yeah.
And I remember the shifting of it because, you and I grew up when weed was illegal. You know, a cop would catch you with weed, you had some problems. But now, literally, I'm in New York, and you could buy weed on every corner.
Yeah. When I first moved out to Joshua Tree, you could buy weed everywhere. You know, they go to the Radio Shack and buy a transistor radio and a bag of weed at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I always treated it as if it was legal, you know, because I thought it should be. So
Yeah.
it passed my test.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I lived in New York for 10 years, and I remember the first time I went to a dispensary and I bought some weed in Harlem, and I walked out and there was a cop car like outside, and I remember walking past the cop car with weed on me, and I'm like, yo, this is the first time I'm not worried about getting busted in New York, because New York was always very harsh on this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like weed is actually legal now.
Well, it is legal, but they're still hard on it now again, as far as in public, and you know, there's still and you can't. There's no dispensary that I can have been able to find in New York.
Oh, there's a bunch now.
Oh, there's a bunch now.
There's a bunch now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try that. We're
They're
going
everywhere.
to New York.
There's everywhere. There's the real ones, and then there's ones that are sort of gray market, which everyone kind of leaves alone anyway. So they're literally everywhere now.
Yeah. Well, I got to go to New York soon.
I mean, when you look at, for example, you know, one of my favorite rap groups is Cypress Hill.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know Be Real. I had him on the show. And, you know, when you see these groups, I feel like they kind of took what you guys started and, you know, and ran with it and did really well.
Sure.
Like, when you see like a Cypress Hill, how do you feel in your in your contribution to that genre?
I feel proud, man. It's like one of your kids went out there and invented something and made 10 zillion bucks. You know, I know B. We were just together a little while ago, and you know that's what it was supposed to be doing. It's supposed to spread the word. It's supposed to spread that vibe and that mentality out there. You know, and that's what happened with all those guys, and with Be Real and Chris Tucker and Ice Cube and all those things. They took what we were doing and, okay, we can do a version of that too, you know, our own version and describe our neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, you guys actually showed up on the Kush album. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the Rise Up album on the song Kush.
Yeah.
Where you guys do the intro, and then, you know, Be Real said Cheech and Chong, they're down with us.
Yeah.
For the DEA, they can get these nuts. Yeah, no, I mean, because it was interesting, because I remember, like, growing up, because I'm 50, right? Yeah. And I remember in high school, which is like the late 80s, you know, early 90s, weed was considered kind of like a loser thing. You know what I mean? Like the stoners would go in the back and dress in all black, and they would smoke weed at lunch. Yeah. And it wasn't considered like a cool, hip kind of thing. And then when Cheech and Chong came out, and later on Cypress Hill, like for us it was Cypress Hill because I was a hip hop head. It kind of made it cool. Like suddenly the cool kids were smoking weed, not just the loser kids. Yeah. And now it's like everywhere now. So it's interesting to see kind of the progression of it.
You could be a loser and winner at the same time with weed. You know, that's the miracle of weed.
Exactly, man. I mean, and thank you so much for your contribution to that, because, I mean, you never know. I mean, had a Cheech and Chong not been around, it might still have that same stigma that it had back then.
It could be. We're not getting any royalties for it, so, you know, don't know what to tell you. Unfortunately. Yeah.
So now we get to where we are right now. So 2022, you launched the Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art and Culture.
Yeah. It's called the Cheech.
The Cheech. So how big was your art collection when you started this?
It was pretty big. I was, you know, I think about 750 pieces, something like that. It was a lot of paintings. I've been collecting for a long time and then showing it, you know. So the city of Riverside came to me with an offer of giving me this museum for the collection. And, you know, every big collector I've ever met always arrives at the same point at the end. They'll say, what am I going to do with all this art? I can't put it under the bed anymore and in the closet, and I got to find a place for it. And usually they don't, because you're not going to give, you can be a little part of a bigger museum, or that's about it, especially for Chicano art. Nobody had a big collection of Chicano art. They had a few pieces there and there, but they were offering me this museum that was just going to house my collection, and that would be the only thing that would be in this museum.
Mm.
It's a tough decision there because I have to give them. I don't loan it to them or
Right.
For a length of time and then I take it back. I have to give it to them. And once you give it to them, it's theirs. You don't own it anymore. And so but I made a decision that it was the best thing for Chicano art and for the community and for the Chicanos, because they had never had a museum solely dedicated to Chicano art. And arguably, it was the best. It is the best Chicano collection that there is. And I'm pretty confident in that. And I've been touring it. By the time that we got to Riverside, we had played in over 50 museums. The Smithsonian, LACMA, the DeYoung, the Whitney, all those, so we had to have a final resting place for it. And it fell out of the sky.
I mean, if you were to eyeball it, how much is this collection worth?
I don't know. Because it's increasing in value right now as we speak, because now there is an official place. It's a real big deal to have your own museum dedicated to this specific kind of art that had never had it before. It's a giant, and now you're taken seriously in academic circles where you were kind of recognized before, but only recognized, not to. It didn't work to make you bigger or say it was part of this or that, but now it is, and it's doing wonderful. Last year, in our first year, we were voted one of the top 50 shows in the world last year, and we did very well. We outdrew Mocha in L.A. We drew more people.
Like, what are the crown jewels of this collection? Like, do you have any Frida Kahlos or anything else like that?
That's Mexican. This is strictly Chicano, which is Mexican-American.
Aha. Okay. My bad.
There you go.
Okay. So these are American artists with a Mexican background.
There we go. That explains it well enough.
So what are the crown jewels of this collection?
There's a lot of them. I mean, there is a lot of them. I can't, they always ask, what's your favorite painting? I don't know. It changes all the time. There's a lot of them in there. There's a lot of great artists.
Yeah, I mean, I just interviewed Basquiat's sisters.
Oh, yeah.
They have the exhibit right now in L.A., King Pleasure. And, it was interesting kind of being at that exhibit, and I'm talking to the sisters, I'm looking around, and I'm like, this is a multi-billion-dollar collection that we're sitting inside right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, literally, because his pieces sell for like $120 million and stuff like that for just one piece. And this was like huge, unreleased, giant pieces. And I'm like, I'm literally sitting in billions of dollars right now. Yeah. Like, it's insane.
The art world, especially in America, works kind of that way. He got big because he was associated with Andy Warhol.
Yeah, and Keith Haring and Madonna and
it introduces all that. We had nobody. We didn't have any Warhol in our group. I was the Warhol, I guess. That had all these. But it takes a lot of time because what that does is it gets you entree to a whole other group of collectors and museums that were ready to buy your art and make it a part of their establishment. Mm-hmm. I was doing it kind of all by myself at that point, but now there's more, so we like it.
I mean, were your kids upset that you gave away your entire art collection as opposed to them inheriting?
I kept about maybe about 150 pieces.
Oh, okay.
Of my favorites. Not, but every artist is represented in the museum, and with most of their great works. And so I kept mostly their smaller pieces that I like to have around me in my house.
Got it. Got it. Well, when you look up your net worth on Google, it says 30 million.
Really?
Now, Google, yep, that's what they say.
I'm going to take a loan on that shit.
You can use as collateral. Google says I'm worth this. And, listen, Google gets it wrong. And, I have a weird net worth also. But when you look at your career, which is now, decades and decades long, when you look at, your building of wealth and so forth, what do you think were the best business decisions that you made along the way, and what was the worst?
Wow. In both what?
Well, your best business, investments and decisions, and your worst ones.
Oh, houses are my best investment.
Okay.
Because I bought early and kept it, and they became worthwhile. But art is absolutely one of the best investments I ever made. And it'll keep growing. Now it's at the point where it's going to start to grow into that bigger because New York galleries are starting to feature it now. And other things. So that's more if a guy's going to spend, like, say, $1 million on a piece of art, he's not going to go to, he's going to go to New York to buy it, because that's kind of the market, where but now LA is supplanting that as one of the big markets to buy actually art, Yeah, so it's like the stock market. Prices go up and down, and it could be like art bellies. Sometimes they're worth a lot, and sometimes the price goes down. But generally, it keeps going up because it has value and recognition in the marketplace. And now we're just starting to get recognition.
Yeah, I remember I had a collection of a bunch of Keith Haring signed prints, which I ended up selling, which I kick myself every day for selling these days. So, because I hadn't bought a house yet, so I was going house to house, and it was kind of a hassle moving them around. So I just said, screw it. Now it's like, I wish I'd kept them.
Yeah, well,
I wish I'd kept them.
Sometimes I found that you don't keep them because you're ready to move on to something else. At least that's been my experience. I had a big Art Nouveau and Art Deco collection that I started collecting before Chicano art when I first got some money. And I put together a pretty big collection because I traveled all the time, and I could be in New York or Chicago or Dallas or LA all the time, and I could go search those things out. I mean, I was the guy on the plane with a lamp next to him in the seat, always carrying something back home, So, but I'm a collector. I've always been a collector of something all my life, whether baseball cards or bottle caps or who knows what, any of those things,
What do you think was your worst investment? What's something you wish you could have redone?
Oh, I can't say. It get me in trouble. The worst. I don't think I have a worse investment. I'm fairly frugal and conservative.
Aha, got it. Well, my last question. You've been a working actor now for 45 years. What is the key to continue to work in Hollywood, to get all these movie and TV roles year after year, decade after decade?
Be singular. If they go for a kind of somebody in my age group that has to be Mexican or Chicano or Latino of any kind, I get a call. Be singular, there's a lot of Latino actors out there now, but when I first started breaking into movies or even TV, it was like, God, you're one of the only Latinos on TV. You're in a movie. I said, they're on Dancing with the Stars now, like, or any other, there's 150 Latinos out there. They're the stars of their own shows right now. So it's like that has happened. It is not going to happen sometime in the future. It's happened, so just keep going and keep representing,
Well, right. Because, for example, when you look at old movies like the original West Side Story, you had a whole bunch of white guys that would paint their face brown so they could play Puerto Ricans.
Egyptian pancake makeup #3 is what it's called. That's really what the makeup is called, that they painted it. They got to look Indian. Uses for the Indians, in cowboy movies. Yeah. Egyptian pancake makeup #3.
I mean, how do you feel about how back then, literally, they would give, Spanish roles to white people with brown faces?
Yeah.
They paint their face brown, and now you actually have real representation.
Yeah. It's just time goes by and things change, and I don't. All my favorite actors are supposed to play Latinos were actually Latinos, Leo Carrillo, Duncan Ronaldo, all those kind of guys. They actually were Latino, but it keeps going on. It keeps going on. Who would have ever thought that the two main characters, the emblematic characters of the hippie deal was a Chicano lowrider and his half Chinese friend? That's American hippies for you.
Right.
So, hey, we love America. Anything can happen.
Well, Cheech, you're 77 years old now.
Yes, I
And
am.
I feel like you're still going strong.
Yeah, I guess.
What is the key really to be that age and still be healthy and vibrant and lucid and everything else like that? Because, even at 50, I have friends that are like missing half their teeth and, had drug problems throughout their life and made bad decisions. You're still healthy and vibrant. Like, how do you stay young like this?
I smoke dope all the time and play guitar. I'm telling you, that's the fucking truth, man. It's like, smoking all day and play guitar. And, work out or I meditate every day. I've done this since I was 19, transcendental meditation.
Really?
Every day, twice a day.
And that really works for you?
Absolutely. And all the people that I kind of admire do that too. Howard Stern, who you would never think, meditates transcendentally every day, 2 times a day, and does it for years. We've talked about this many times. And a lot of different, David Lynch. There's a lot of people that meditate, and I've been doing it since the beginning of that movement in this country, and it just makes me feel great. It's a rest of my nervous system, and it keeps that if anything, that's what keeps me young.
Well, Cheech, thank you so much for sharing your story. I've been a long-time fan since the 80s.
Thank you very much. You may live.
Thank you.
That's one of my many powers I grant life.
I mean, just such an epic career. That was just so unique.
Yeah.
Now you have stoner movies, you have, a lot of Mexican Americans who have, who play like the cholo role and everything else like that. But at the time, you guys were completely different and completely out of left field. And like you said, you got a Mexican and a half Chinese guy playing stoners and also doing music.
Yeah.
And it's something that has never been duplicated, but has been copied so many times. And it worked. And you guys became iconic at it.
It's amazing.
And to this day, like these movies are still hilarious and these comedy routines are still epic.
It's amazing. And we sit back and just go, are amazed by it, and thankful, really thankful, because we were, there was no lane for us when we first started. There was no lane for us,
Yeah.
And
you guys made your own lane. That's the whole
thing.
thing.
Our own lane. And this is an authentic lane, and everybody recognizes it. I think that's what they recognize more than anything else is our authenticity.
Yes. I think that's the thing. The authenticity just carries through. You can't pretend to do what you guys did. You guys can't be like non-smokers and pretend to be smokers.
Yeah.
You guys were really weed smokers in real life.
I've gone through, portions of my life where I never smoked weed for a long time. And then I smoked weed again. I'm in one of those smoke weed again periods for the last 70 years. But it works out.
You stopped when you were 6.
Yeah, for like about a week.
For a week, and then started back up again. Well, Cheech, man, thank you so much for coming through, and I'm looking forward to what you got coming up next, because it seems like you're still doing your thing.
We are. We're just waiting for this actor strike to get over. I think we're going to do 2 more Cheech and Chong movies.
Oh, there's more Cheech and Chong movies coming.
We think so.
Wow.
We had 2 ready to go, and then the strikes, the writers and the actors strike. So no go.
Okay.
But I think those are going to, and I think we'll start them after the first of the year.
Is there a working title for the first one?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We never title our movies until they're all made, because it's like naming your baby before you see it.
Huh.
Hey, Whitey, no, you're black. Oh.
Well, Cheech, man, thank you so much for coming through, man. Wish you all the best.
My pleasure, man. Thank you very much. I'll come back.
Absolutely. Peace.
All right, peace out.